Hey y'all, I'm Leland Bassham, and this is my presentation on missing middle housing and rising suburban sprawl in the United States. Here is the table of contents, and to start with an introduction. The lack of middle housing and subsequent urban sprawl in the United States creates less accessible communities, leads to deforestation, and hurts local economies. Through my research on my own time in the past few years, as well as conversations with local elected officials, I became interested in efficient urban development to combat these issues. So, what will be discussed in this presentation? To start, we're going to define what missing housing and urban sprawl are, what connects these two ideas, and how each affects our communities. Definitions. Middle housing is housing which falls between single family and mid rise housing, according to the National League of Cities. Other groups also throw in that often includes walkable cities and other amenities like easy access to stores. Urban sprawl is the process by which communities expand outward in unplanned, low density manners, which usually means single family homes and 5 acre or so plots. In this image, you could see what middle housing is. Starting from the left side, you have single family homes, which are on 1 acre to 5 acre plots. As you go further to the right, you'll notice that the housing becomes denser, which means that it allows for more people to live on an equivalent amount of land. And missing middle housing, and this graphic shows that this is housing that isn't often built, and you have these two extremes, which are a lot more common in American cities. Here is a picture of Los Angeles, and this shows urban sprawl very well. At the center, you have large high rise buildings. Moving out, there are some mid rises, and then as you travel further along and outwards, you have single family homes going on for several miles. And you'll notice along the middle of the image, there is a line of buildings which is somewhat taller. Um, that often is going to be along a roadway. So, what connects these two things? Well, to start, the lack of zoning for middle housing units, in part, has created the need to sprawl or push outward, which is typically single family homes because there is no zoning which allow in many cities there's no zoning which allows for the missing middle housing. Another factor is that developers benefit from single family homes as there is easier to sell. So what are how does it affect communities? Well, to start, housing shortages. If you're only building homes which can accommodate one family and you're not efficiently using land, you'll have housing shortages and you won't be able to house the number of people that there are. Next is the loss of natural spaces and farmland. Again, by only building single family homes and moving outward from cities, you lose natural spaces which could have been used for parks or recreational areas, or you lose farmland, which is important for feeding the populace. It also leads to stunted economic activity. By creating a reliance on cars, there's and not zoning for businesses to be near housing. And an example when you look at missing housing is that some buildings will include a business at the bottom of a building and then have housing above it, which allows not only to create shared spaces, but encourage economic activity in local businesses. The last major point would be loss of government revenues. Um, when you have a reliance and you push outwards, you need more roads. And who maintains those roads? Well, the government. So not only does the government have to pave more roads, they have to pay for the upkeep of that, which over time creates for areas billions of dollars, if not millions, of lost revenue. Continuing on, this image presents the cost of living in suburban and urban areas in Nova Scotia, which is in Canada. As you see in the graphic, it is much more expensive by $2,000 to live in a suburban area than an urban one, which includes increased costs for policing, government, schools, busing, and other services. And a main point would be the roads, where in a suburban area, the roads cost upwards of $100 per an equivalent area in an urban area, which would only be around $24. So, what can we take from this? Well, let's look back at what was discussed. Definitions. Missing housing, housing which falls in between single family and mid-rise housing, and urban sprawl, when cities push outwards in unplanned and low density manners. We also talked about how they're connected, how the lack of zoning for missing housing and middle housing creates the need to sprawl outwards. And we discussed the effects each has on communities. So, takeaways. Well, having seen this presentation, I hope that going forward, you'll be able to notice these issues in your own community. Thank you for coming to my presentation.